Welcome to the No Sugar Coating Podcast. I am Amber Romaniuk, emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert. I am also the founder of amberapproved.ca. I support professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. This podcast provides the honest truth on what you really need to create body freedom. The No Sugar Coating Podcast provides information on healthy living, lifestyle changes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. Always seek the advice of your healthcare practitioner regarding your health and nutrition program. Hello, everybody. Happy episode 198. I can't believe it's already the end of August. Fall is on its way, which I'm super pumped because I love fall. I've got really exciting announcement coming up that I will be sharing with you guys very soon regarding a podcast interview. So super excited to share that with you. We're almost to episode 200. I'm going to be doing something really exciting to celebrate the 200th episode of the podcast. And I just hope that you guys are having an absolutely wonderful day. So this week, I'm going to be talking about emotional reasons you are hungry, physical reasons you are hungry, and easy ways to stabilize hunger. And then you'll want to stay tuned for episode 200, where I'm actually going to talk about emotional reasons why you aren't hungry, physical reasons why you aren't hungry, and again, easy ways to stabilize your hunger levels, because there's reasons for both. And I think this is so valuable. So I want to share a word of the week. And this week, my word is all about fun. I guess celebration is also part of it, but I just think it's so important for us to have fun, whether we're on our health journey to infuse some fun and not have it be so serious all the time, or in your personal growth, your relationship with yourself. I just think it's so important to infuse fun into all areas of our life and to lighten up, because sometimes things can feel heavy and fun brings in the lightness. So be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast for the show notes, as I will be sharing more about my group program enrollment and other exciting things. So again, I'm moving the show notes to the end of the podcast so that I can dive into the topics much more quickly. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Definitely email me feedback. Do you like it better in the beginning, or do you like it better at the end? So yeah, I'm trying to keep it as short and sweet to just dive right into the topics. So welcome to the show. If you have questions, you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca. And if you're finding a specific eating style isn't working for you, you're struggling with emotional eating, food addiction, digestive issues, inflammation, you suspect your hormones are off, and if self-care continues to be a problem for you, well, these are all of the different topics I will continue to talk about to help you dive into the habits and mindsets that will set you on a different path to help you on your health journey, your weight loss journey, your self-love journey, whatever kind of journey you are on. Amber Approved offers private coaching for hormonal imbalances, weight loss and digestive issues, emotional eating, and more. Contact Amber at amberapproved.ca to book your 30-minute complimentary consultation today. So let's talk about emotional reasons why you may be hungry. And you may even be thinking, like, how is it possible to have emotional reasons why I'm hungry? Well, let me tell you that I find, for the most part, most people that I work with or just talk to and have conversations with about, their health journeys and or just observe actually are far more emotionally hungry than they are physically hungry. So emotional hunger is any reason for eating other than to fulfill physical nourishment. So essentially, if you're eating for any other reason other than you're actually physically hungry, it's probably emotional. And if you're wondering, well, I don't even know the difference between, feeling physically hungry and emotionally hungry. Well, physical hunger, it's usually you're going to get cues like your blood sugar drops, your energy gets low, you get moody, your stomach growls, you get a hunger signal that makes you feel hungry. And if you don't get any of those signals, then you're definitely going to want to make sure that you tune into episode 200, where I talk about reasons why you're not hungry, because there can be a lot of potential different things that actually get in the way of you producing those hunger hormones. But I often find, emotional reasons you're hungry, like that's all to do with emotional eating. And you may go, well, I'm not an emotional eater, but if you eat when you're bored, you're happy, you multitask and eat, you watch TV and eat, like that's all to me emotional eating. It's mindless eating. It's not supporting your health and well-being. You're not doing it to, fulfill physical hunger. And it's usually more of a sabotage or punishment or a need to try and fill a void that will never be filled with food. So let's talk about some of these top emotional reasons that you are hungry. So stress. Stress is huge. Emotional stress is one of the biggest contributors to emotional eating, binge eating, overeating, food addiction. And of course, that is because stress is uncomfortable to feel. I don't know many people that like to feel stress. Sure, some people may say they thrive under pressure and under stress, but that at the end of the day, the stress has a negative impact long-term on your physical state of health, your emotional well-being, your mindset, your energy levels, your sleep, your cravings, your appetite levels, digestion, so many different things. So I often find when someone is consistently under a high level of stress, they've added too many tasks, to-dos, and commitments on their plate, they feel overwhelmed. And overwhelm, I think, is one of the most common emotional eating triggers that I see my clients struggle with, because overwhelm is unbearable. It's not fun to deal with. It's very uncomfortable. It can feel anxiety, worry, fear, guilt if you don't get everything done, panic. For some people, they have anxiety attacks. And that is extremely uncomfortable to sit in and feel. Like if you feel worry, fear, guilt, shame, like you'll know that those emotions are very uncomfortable to just sit with and feel. And so often for most people, because they don't know how to feel or how to cope with their emotions in a healthy way or to deal with them in a healthy way, we'll go in quick fix and we'll do something to help suppress or numb those emotions. And emotional eating or eating to suppress or numb those kinds of emotions because of stress is very common. So, whether it's like you're at the bookstore and you see the chocolate bar and you're like, oh my gosh, I need that. I need a break. I need to feel better. So you eat the chocolate bar, or you purposefully go to the store and you buy a bunch of your favorite comfort foods and you go home and eat them. Or you decide to go through the drive-thru on the way home and get fast food, even though you told yourself that you weren't going to do that today. Or maybe you just catch yourself in the cupboard, like aimlessly digging for chips, candy, chocolate, or you like eat 3 extra servings of pasta for dinner. And then usually what ends up after you finish emotionally eating or stress eating is that you feel guilty, you feel bloated, you feel unhappy, you're frustrated with yourself, you're disappointed. And usually those emotions that you were feeling previous are now magnetized, and you see that it didn't resolve your issue, and now you just feel worse because now there's guilt. Now you're like, oh my gosh, panicking, am I going to gain weight? Now I need to compensate for overeating. I'm bloated, my pants aren't fitting very well anymore, and you just feel uncomfortable. And that's not fun either. And even that first trigger and, going to food often will further trigger more emotional eating because of all the negative emotions and physical symptoms that are created through the act of emotional eating. So I think it's just so important to see how stress, I think sometimes is so underrated. It's a huge trigger for people. And I think it's just so important to address stress, address your schedule, and, bring in balance, because if you have a mindset that is an overachiever, a perfectionist, a people pleaser, you need to prove everything to everyone because you don't feel good enough inside. You don't feel that you're worthy. It's usually those insecurities or the low self-worth that will fuel people to behave in those ways. But then what happens is you overwhelm and exhaust yourself, and then we start to cope. So a lot of people I know use food, some use alcohol, some shop and spend excess amounts of money. For some people, it's harder drugs. So it's how are you coping with stress? Or for some people, they fill up their schedule even more. And it's to distract from dealing with it all. And it's that's only going to dig you into a deeper hole. So we definitely have to address stress, those mindsets, the perfectionism, the all or nothing, the people pleasing. It's so important for you to build your self-worth so you don't feel driven out of desperation to please other people, to make them happy, to find your self-worth, because you will never fulfill and you will just continuously drain yourself. And we don't want that. We want you to have your health and your energy and to be happy. Another emotional reason I find people, are hungry is boredom. So people often, when they have free time, especially if you're a busy person that doesn't get a lot of free time, you may You go, oh, I'm bored. What can I do to pass the time? And instead of potentially thinking about self-care activities you could do, like meditation or stretching or breathing or taking a bath, getting out for a walk, going and calling a friend, the association is, oh, well, I'm bored. What can I do to pass the time? Well, I'm going to eat. I'm going to just sit down. I'm going to start snacking. And then the next thing you know, you've snacked your way through a half a box of crackers or a whole bag of chips, and you've nibbled on a few cookies and maybe a half a pint of ice cream. And then the next thing you know, you're so full and so uncomfortable, and or you just go, oh my gosh, like I just ate that and I wasn't even hungry. But again, boredom, for a lot of people, what ends up happening is if you're busy, when you have time for yourself, you kind of panic and you don't know what to do. And even though, again, there's a lot of really positive things you could do for yourself and give to yourself, you're often don't think of that because there's that people pleasing, like I've got to take care of everyone else. What can I do for everyone else? Oh my gosh, there's nothing to do for anyone else. This is so uncomfortable. And so the thought of, again, doing some form of self-care feels foreign because you're just so used to being go, busy all the time. So boredom often, again, people just feel uncomfortable, don't want to just sit and be quiet and relax. And so here comes the food and the sabotage. I often find a lot of people will eat out of a place of happiness and celebration, like holidays, maybe you're celebrating like something really good happening, or maybe you had a really great day and you're like, I had a really great day. I want to go and eat ice cream, or I want to go and eat chips. And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with going to a holiday and, a family holiday season, say like Christmas or Thanksgiving, and enjoying the celebration of having a piece of pumpkin pie with vanilla ice cream on it. But I think where the breakdown is either when you've told yourself, I'm not going to allow myself to have anything, and or you're like, I'm going to go all out and I'm going to just binge and eat everything that I want because I've been restricting. Neither of those are healthy because you're in restrictive all or nothing mindset mode. I think where celebration, it's to bring in that balance where it's like, I'm going to give myself permission to enjoy this beautiful piece of pie with ice cream. I'm going to eat it slowly and then I'm going to move on. And if you're like, I can't do that because I know if I did that, I would lose control, then to me, that's just like a huge sign to get support with your emotional eating, your food fears, your diet mentality. And that's where I would definitely encourage you to reach out, book your 30-minute body freedom call. It's complimentary. We talk about your health goals, where you're struggling. I provide, information on how I support my clients. I answer your questions. And then, if you are ready to invest in your health, this is freeing. How would it feel for you if you could go to that celebration and have that one piece of dessert and enjoy it and then just move on without guilt, fussing, or worrying about it? Your body could break it down and digest it well. And you could just move on with the rest of the evening and enjoy the social experience of the celebration. That's my goal of where I want to get people to. That's where you deserve to get to, where it's just another part of your day and it's not this big guilt trip or shame or loss of control that happens afterward. But I find, another thing that I see is that people will do good. They'll get into this mentality of I've eaten really mindfully lately, so now I'm going to treat myself with food. But then unfortunately what ends up happening is they overdo it and overeat and overindulge. And then unfortunately now all of a sudden they are going from happy and then rewarding themselves to complete self-sabotage. So I often encourage people to actually stop rewarding yourself with food. Sure, if you want to go for a nice dinner and share it with somebody, but I think it's just actually important to go, how can I reward myself with non-food things? Go to the spa for the day, get yourself a new outfit, do extra self-care, be kind to yourself, compliment yourself, go get that, new pair of shoes. But I think it's actually important to start stepping away from using food as reward because it can build really unhealthy relationships with food. Another emotional reason, that you are hungry is because you're multitasking all the time and you've made eating and multitasking a really big habit, whether it's TV and eating or driving and eating, or you associate working and snacking and eating, or you always just seem to have, something with you. You're on your phone every time you have a meal. Unfortunately, multitasking and eating can really turn into overeating. And there's a really interesting stat that shares that when we're multitasking and eating and or not focused on just eating your food, you're apt to potentially eat up to 40% more than you would if you were focused on being mindful. So it's like the person who sits down with a bag of chips and watches that TV show, and their intention is to only have a few, and then like 20 minutes later, they put their hand in the bag and the bag's empty, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I just ate the whole bag of chips or the whole pint of ice cream or the whole chocolate bar or whatever that is. So I think it's so important that we actually make eating a priority, and that we stop multitasking and eating, and that you become present, like focus on doing the work, or just focus on the TV show and sip on like a really nice glass of infused water or a tea, or some healthy drink that you really like. But it's to actually go, you know what, I'm going to dedicate time to mindfully eat my meal or snack without multitasking because I'm worth it. It's important for me to take the time to just stop and eat this food, to be mindful, to prevent overeating and emotional eating. And my digestion is going to work a lot better. I'm going to be far more likely to break this down properly because, again, if we're eating and multitasking, it has a negative impact on digestion as well. So I often find another emotional reason that people are hungry is because there's a lot of sadness in their life. Maybe you had a trauma happen. Maybe you lost somebody. Maybe you moved across the country. Maybe you've got a lot of, stress in your life, and it makes you really sad and upset. And I often find, people have a void, and this void is that lack of self-worth. It's a lack of self-love. And so they try to fill the void with food. It's like there's a sweetness missing from their lives. And so they eat to compensate. I know for me, for such a long time, I just felt so lonely and I was so sad, but I also didn't know how to love myself. And I figured that I had to be with someone else to be fulfilled. But once I started to fill the void with self-love and taking care of myself versus sugar, I realized that the sugar wasn't actually filling the void for the sweetness missing in my life. It's that I had to learn how to take care of myself, to learn how to love myself. And I just think it's so important that we start to understand that there are emotional cravings, that there are emotional reasons why we're hungry, and that it's not that there's something wrong with you and you don't have willpower. That's not what it is at all, but it is to understand why you have the behaviors and habits and mindsets you do with food so that you can learn how to change them if they're not supporting your health and your greatest good. I really believe that emotional reasons you're hungry come down to self-worth. So if you feel unworthy, if you don't feel good enough, if you feel very insecure, if you don't like your body, if you're always fighting to try and lose weight and you're in negative self-talk and you're always stressed and, you don't feel like anything good ever happens to you, that comes from this place of not feeling good enough. The people pleasing, the perfectionism, the all or nothing mindset, the saying yes to everyone else and no to yourself, the overachieving, the needing to prove, that all comes from the place of I don't feel good enough, I don't feel worthy. So I think it's so important that we work on our self-worth. Same with weight. People who struggle with weight frustrations are triggered to emotionally eat because if they don't reach their goals, they feel like they're never going to be happy, that they're never going to be, able to go and be social and do all the things they want to do because their value and worth lies within a number, which is never going to fill that void. So that's why it's so important to go to the core of all of this and work on your self-worth, your confidence, learning how to love and respect yourself and your body, learning how to listen to your body, because when you do that and you really love and respect yourself, you don't want to hurt yourself with food. You don't want to put yourself down with negative words, and you feel so empowered to conquer the world because you feel amazing and you want to live an amazing life. And that's what ends up happening as you gain power and build a healthy relationship with food and yourself. So obviously there's more. I could go on forever, but I want to shift now to physical reasons you are hungry because I think that this is just as important as the emotional. And I think that this is, something that I really notice. A lot of my clients have worked with different therapists and psychologists and doctors and, all kinds of different healthcare practitioners. And, maybe some have had success working with these other people, but when they come to me and they say, I really feel like you can help me physically and emotionally. And I love that because, you're not just hungry for physical reasons or you're not just hungry for emotional reasons. There are both. And I think it's so important to be able to identify both. And if you're working with someone and you've been working with them for a long time, but you're still struggling with emotional eating or you're still struggling, with certain things that you just are like, okay, why hasn't this been dealt with by now? Then you may want to consider trying to get support from someone else who can help you with those other pieces. Because to me, if you have been really committed and taking on the recommendations and it's not working for you, then it may not be a right fit. So always be open to exploring other options, because I just think it's so important for you to get all the support you need and all the pieces of the puzzle, so that you can get the results that you're wanting for your health and well-being. So physical reasons, you are hungry. So a huge one is that people do not eat enough. We're, just so conditioned in this society, this diet mentality: eat less, exercise more. That's how you'll lose weight. Eat 1,000 calories a day, 1,200 calories a day. And then you have these restrictive diets like HCG and whatever else, where it's like 500, 750, 1,000 calories a day. And we learn all this diet behavior, all this diet mentality that does not serve your health. And obviously, if you're not eating enough, you're going to be hungry regularly and you're going to snack regularly. And, with some of the people I start to work with in the beginning of the coaching, they always say, I'm always hungry. No matter what I eat, even if I snack all day, I'm still hungry. And then I start to look at what they're eating, and A, they're not eating enough. B, the quality of what they are eating is very poor. And C, they're not getting enough like fiber, protein, fat, healthy carbs. Again, it's like very empty calorie foods. So I think it's so important that we eat enough, that we start to increase our protein and fat intake, that we're getting really healthy carbs from our fruits and vegetables, from our, gluten-free whole grains. I say gluten-free a lot because I'm gluten-free. The majority of my clients are. For anyone who's like wondering, do you make your clients go gluten and dairy free? No, but if they have sensitivities and if you're eating those foods and you notice they're giving you upset, then I talk about alternatives and ways we can minimize, because obviously if it's having a negative impact on your health, then we want to change that. And what's so interesting is, certain foods like aspartame, refined sugar, even wheat and dairy, for some people, they excite the same part of the brain as a hard drug like heroin does. The opioid receptors, light up. And so if you're finding you're always hungry, but you're always eating these foods, but they're not nourishing you, then it, again, every time you eat these foods, especially overeat them, you can increase your chances of eating up to 40 to 60% more in your next meal, because your body is going, oh, they're eating a lot now. Maybe that means that there's a famine coming. So I'm going to, open up to store as much fat as I can and increase the appetite levels just in case I don't get any food for a week. And again, the breakdown is that usually is probably not happening and you're eating multiple times through the day. So I think it's really important to understand whether it's you're not eating enough, you're not eating, nourishing foods, and or you're eating really processed foods all the time that just leave you feeling hungry. They don't fill the void. They don't really nourish you. That will leave you hungry. Obviously, if you're skipping meals, you're probably going to be more hungry, especially people who skip breakfast, lunch. I find a lot of people do need at least one snack a day. Everyone's different. I don't think everyone needs 6 meals a day. I don't think everyone needs 3 meals a day. I think it's important to connect with each person and understand their current state of health, their hormones, their stress levels, their relationship with food, and just start improving the nourishment quality of one meal at a time, because A, we want to keep it easy, and B, we don't want it to overwhelm you, and I want you to have lots of options with what you're eating. So I believe it's important to have breakfast. I don't believe in fasting. I don't believe in skipping breakfast. I don't believe in, having a coffee with collagen for breakfast and that's it, especially if there's hormone imbalances. If you have an emotional relationship with food and you're thinking, oh, I can just cut calories and skip breakfast and lose weight, you're actually setting yourself up for failure, and you're setting your body up to do the opposite of what you want it to do. Skipping meals does not support your energy. It does not support healthy metabolism, thyroid, adrenals, weight loss. It does not support consistent energy, consistent blood sugar. It doesn't help you reduce your cravings. It often will sabotage and do the opposite. So I think it's very important that we eat consistently through the day. That's just my opinion. If you feel like you're otherwise, great. But I'm here to support the people who really, are struggling with those diet mentalities and eat less, exercise more mentalities, because I find that that's the majority of who I have a conversation with. And as they increase, and start eating more through the day, their energy improves, their blood sugar improves, they're emotionally eating far less, their hormones are regulating, the cravings are really calming down, digestion is improving, bowel movements are happening more regularly. And again, when the time is right, the weight or the protection comes off, because now their body is getting enough versus not enough, which really does stress the body out. So another reason why, you're hungry is because your blood sugar is out of whack. If you're skipping meals, you're stressed, you're drinking high levels of caffeine or drinks with sugar, aspartame, and caffeine, if you're eating empty calorie meals or snacks, you're eating a lot of refined foods, you're not eating protein or fat, I just think that blood sugar plays such a huge role in, regulating appetite levels. If you have certain hormone imbalances like adrenal, high cortisol, adrenal fatigue, really low cortisol, if you're, struggling with certain digestive imbalances like candida, like this can all really make your blood sugar very sensitive. If you're really tired all the time, that can make your blood sugar feel more sensitive and you just feel hungry more often. You have cravings more often or your cravings just feel more intense. Like that is just so connected. So I think it's so important to support blood sugar, to understand, what may be having a negative impact on the blood sugar, and then to regulate it, with different things depending on what's going on specifically for you, because balanced blood sugar is like a godsend. You just feel so much better. The cravings go away, your energy is consistent, and you're satisfied after you eat. So we want to balance the blood sugar. I used to have horrible blood sugar from all the binging and restriction. And I just remember standing up so many times and getting lightheaded. And that's also part of that hormone picture as well. Food cravings. So you may be hungry if you're struggling with like carb cravings, like pasta with cheese or candy or sugar or chocolate or chips, crunchy foods, fast food. Cravings, more often than not, especially if you don't have a lot of awareness, often people will just give into the craving because they're like, oh, it's just so debilitating to deal with this craving, so I'm just going to give into it. So I think it's super, super important that we address cravings and why you have the cravings you do. And there's both physical and emotional reasons for cravings. So it's important to address that, because I want you to be able to support your health physically and emotionally and see the cravings literally like fly out the window. I'd say anywhere between a couple of weeks to a couple of months, my clients notice a significant reduction in the cravings. If they haven't fully gone away, then they do shortly thereafter. Usually cravings are a big trigger to snack and to choose, refined foods and to emotionally eat. And they usually don't satisfy what we're seeking. It's usually much deeper. So I've mentioned cortisol a little bit. So I often find that if your cortisol is too high or too low, that's that stress hormone pumping. It can really impact the blood sugar and cravings. And often people find that they are more hungry. So you may notice you have an increased appetite level, that you want to eat more, especially carbs, refined foods, things like that. So I think it is important to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. If your energy is low, to address why you have low energy, because often if we're tired and our energy is low, this has an impact on your ghrelin and your leptin. So you produce ghrelin to make you hungry, you produce leptin to make you full. And often if you have hormone imbalances, high stress, emotional eating struggles, blood sugar imbalances, you may find that your hunger hormones are completely out of whack. So what we want to do is we want to get those other pieces into balance so that your hunger hormones can regulate. And we want to get the cortisol balanced. So again, your hunger hormones can regulate. We want your energy up. We want you to have better sleep. We want you to hydrate well, because lack of hydration can make you more hungry. I often find, if people are really low on their water intake and then they, go, oh, but I want to eat. But then they start increasing their water and they notice that the cravings go down and their appetite levels regulate. It can often be dehydration, because your body's hoping you're going to eat water-rich foods like fruits and vegetables to get the hydration, but often we don't pick those things. We pick very refined foods that just make you more dehydrated. So it's so important to address your hydration, your sleep, your energy, and your hormones, because these are all things that can make you have increased appetite levels, uncontrollable cravings, what feels like uncontrollable appetite levels. And of course, sleep and energy are just so important to help you function through your day. If you're exercising a lot, if you're burning a lot of calories, if you have a really high metabolism, it's so important to make sure you're eating enough so that you can fuel your body, fuel your energy, fuel your muscles. I think it's just, so important that we are building awareness with our bodies. We're becoming in tune so that we can know what we need to give ourselves. And again, usually it is more like, it's very rarely I ever have to tell anyone to eat less. It's more like, let's eat less refined foods and add in more nourishing foods, but they're still balanced with like mindful indulgence. But sometimes people get really busy and they forget to eat, or they don't eat enough. So I think it's just ensuring that you are honoring your body and your needs. And that is different and it is specific to each person. And another reason why I notice people get hungry is the starvation diets, the restrictive diets, not eating enough, or it's just ridiculous what the diet is asking you to do. Like you can only eat raw vegetables, or you can only eat like one different thing a day, or it's only protein, or it's only fat, or it's low carb, or it's just something that is absolutely not in support of your health or well-being. This messes up your hunger hormones, your blood sugar, your metabolism. Obviously, all the fear, worry, and guilt about failing on the diet will fuel hunger as well. So I think it's actually very important to address any emotional relationship with food, diet addiction, diet mentality, getting you out of that vicious cycle of needing to diet because it's not going to support your health or well-being, and actually having you build a healthy relationship with food, healthy relationship with yourself, building the self-worth so that you can stop the destruction that, restrictive diets and starvation diets can have on the body over the long term if you've been doing this for a long time. So now I want to talk a little bit about easy ways to stabilize your hunger. And I've already kind of planted some seeds as we've gone through. So just to kind of recap, it's so important to learn how to manage your stress in a healthy way. It's so important to address those insecure mindsets. So the perfectionism, the people pleasing, the all or nothing, the overachieving, the need to prove, putting your self-worth in a number, putting your self-worth in a clothing size. It's so important to learn how to build your confidence, your self-worth, and your self-love internally. So I'd highly encourage you to reach out and get support for that. Again, you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca if you're ready to invest in your health. Book your 30-minute complimentary consultation. We will talk more about these things. This is a safe space for you to come and share whatever you need to share. I even find it's just hearing the person sharing, they say, I already feel better. I feel a weight lifted off my shoulder because I actually talked about it. So don't be embarrassed. Don't feel ashamed. Like, this is something that is important to address, but you don't have to feel like you're a bad person or you're not good enough because you're struggling with these things. That's not the case at all. So definitely reach out and get support to work on the mindset, to work on the stress, and having healthy ways to cope with your stress. Having a balanced schedule is important. Dedicating and making time to nourish your body, to eat good food, to do some food prep. I'm not talking about having to dedicate 10 hours a week. I'm talking about do some grocery shopping and buy your groceries and spend like 60 to 90 minutes on a Sunday prepping food. My boyfriend and I do this every Sunday, and it saves us about 6 to 10 hours of not having to prep through the week. And that's a lot of valuable time that then we get to spend together, or that we get to, do self-care or whatever it is. So it's important to have some of those things, I think, planned out, blocked out. Self-care is so important. Self-care helps to regulate your hormones. It helps you to relax. It helps you to build awareness about your body. It can reduce emotional eating. So again, I think it's just such an important piece to get support with if you are struggling, because a lot of people can start to feel guilty when they start to take care of themselves because they fear letting someone else down, or that, they're going to be judged. So I think it's just so important to know it's safe to honor yourself and make yourself a priority, because if you don't, that has a serious impact on your quality of life, your health, and how you show up in every area of life. So self-care, dedicating time to self-care, to unwind, connect with yourself, relax. Self-care helps to build self-worth as well. And obviously it helps you cope with your stressors in a healthy way. I think it's also important to get your hormones assessed, to get your digestion assessed from the physical standpoint, to make sure that if there are any imbalances, that they are resolved and supported, because if that's having an impact on your hunger levels, then we must address those things and balance them out. Obviously, if you aren't eating enough, if you're skipping meals, if you're on a starvation or restrictive diet, I think, again, it's important to get support to overcome the diet mentality, to learn why it's important to eat enough, and to slowly start being supported to eat more. Not all of a sudden you eat, a bunch more, but it's just like baby steps at your comfort level so that you feel safe and you feel, confident with adding more in, but that it's simple, it's easy, and that you're probably going to start to feel better because you're nourishing your body properly. It would be like only putting a quarter tank of gas in your car and expecting it to take you across the country. It's just not going to happen. So if you're only putting a quarter of the energy into your body and the fuel that you need to have energy to function through your day, how do you think you're going to have optimal energy, and how do you think you're going to be able to get through your day with ease if that's the case? It's very difficult, and that's probably one of the reasons you're struggling with low energy or poor sleep or hormone imbalances. It's also important to stabilize your hunger because you need to eat enough to lose weight, to let go of protection. You need to eat enough fat, enough protein, healthy carbs to have your body regulate. So I think, again, dedicating time to making sure you're nourishing your body, take your lunch break, take a snack break, eat your breakfast, have supper, and learning how to eat mindfully and chew your food properly, which aids in digestion, is very important. So put your fork down between bites. Check in. Do I still have room or am I full? Turn off the TV, turn off your phone, shut off technology. I just think it's so important that we become more present with our food and the people around us. Like, have great interactions with the people around you, because that, of course, supports a healthy relationship with food and with connection with others. So those are some of the suggestions I have to start to, regulate. They may seem simple, but they're profound in the impact that they have on you and, where you may be at right now with your hunger levels. So the show notes for today's episode can be found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/198. A friendly reminder to subscribe to the No Sugarcoating podcast on all podcast apps. You can click the link in the show notes. You can also listen to all episodes at amberapproved.ca/podcast-archive, ARCHIVE. So that's where you can go to listen on the new website. So we're coming to the end of summer, and I want to ask you, do you want to gain your health back after too much summer indulgence? Did you overdo it with food? Did you not take care of yourself as you planned you would? Maybe you've gained 5, 10, 20 pounds and now you're panicking about going into fall. We've got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas coming up. There's a lot of food-related holidays. There's already Halloween candy in the stores. Does that make you feel vulnerable? Does that make you feel triggered? Perhaps you need more energy to make yourself a priority. So if this is resonating with you and you're going, oh my gosh, yes, I love fall, but I hate it because there's all of these food holidays coming up and it stresses me out, then you may be interested in connecting to join my fall group program, the Jump Into Your Body Freedom group program. This is a great program if you want to increase your energy, eliminate your cravings for sugar, salt, and other foods, have better moves, improve your eating, also begin to address those emotional eating triggers, make yourself a priority, and learn how to navigate those food holidays. So if you were interested to learn more about the Jump Into Your Body Freedom group program that starts at the beginning of October, then please email me at info@amberapproved.ca with the subject line Fall Group Program. The first 5 spots go for 50% off. I do have 3 of those spots left. And there is a limited capacity for this program. So once it's full, it's full. So again, you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca with the subject line Fall Group Program to ask questions. We can talk about, again, your current state of health and where you're seeking support, and I can share more information, pricing, and you can secure your spot. So I definitely look forward to connecting with you. It's a great program, and it's great to have that, community of other women to support each other. Again, the new website is up. Be sure to check it out at amberapproved.ca. There's an updated emotional eating quiz. There's videos. There's just lots of great information, recipes, blogs. So be sure to check that out. And like I said, if you do have questions about coaching or your health, you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca. If you have feedback or, topics you want to see about the podcast, be sure to reach out. So thank you so much for listening today. I'm so grateful for all of you all over the world who listen. Remember, as I always say, there is no better time than the present to take action on your health. So take action now. And I look forward to sharing a whole new episode with you guys next week. Take care. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, review, and rate this podcast and share it with your friends. You can find me at amberapproved.ca and follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Amber Romaniuk. Join me next Sunday for another brand new episode and another step toward body freedom.